Okay, hi. So, welcome to Science. We are not going over the show what you know today only because there is still one person who has not done it yet, so I can't go over it yet. However, I have sent you all of your marks, so you guys are able to see those. You'll see that it is split into two sections. There is some part for air and aerodynamics, and the other part is for flight. Now, this is the sneaky thing. I'm still able to add in to your marks if you want to increase your mark for flight. I'm able to still increase your mark for that basically up until like tomorrow morning kind of thing. Okay. So I'm giving you the opportunity right now to, like, based on this lesson, to do one task, and then it will hopefully help your mark for flight. And then tomorrow and the next days, we're also going to be doing a little bit of a project for flight, which should be kind of cool. And also that will, like, if people are keen to do it, then, and you kind of like show me that you're keen to do it, then I'll still be able to use that as well, a little bit to improve your mark as well for flight. Okay. So today, I probably think it's going to be the most useful for you to take some notes on this. And then it's going to be like a matching thing on Edmodo, which you will be doing. Okay. So we're learning about the parts of a plane today. All right, here we go. Okay, so parts of an airplane. And this is the I can statement. You don't have to write this down though if you don't want to. I can apply appropriate vocabulary in referring to control surfaces and major components of an aircraft. This vocab should include wings, fuselage, vertical and horizontal stabilizers, elevators, ailerons, and rudder. Okay, so here we go. Parts of an airplane. Okay, so at the end of this lesson, you will get this and you will have to basically label it. Okay, so first of all, fuselage versus cabin. Okay, so you probably heard of cabin crew, heard of that. Fuselage, maybe a little bit of a less common term. So the fuselage is fuselage is the complete center body of an airplane, which the wings, the tail of the plane, and the fin are all attached to. Okay, so technically, the tail and the wings are not part of the fuselage, but it is attached to the fuselage. Okay, so basically it's like the aerodynamic shape of the body of a plane. And then the cabin is specifically the area of the plane where the passengers travel. Okay, so hopefully you can kind of understand the differences of those. Okay, so the fuselage. So generally the fuselage will have certain shape depending upon whether the speed or carrying cargo is most important. Planes that are meant to carry a lot have larger bodies, like the guppy, shown below like this. And planes that are meant to fly really fast are smaller and have more sleek shape, like this jet. Okay, so there you go. That goes with the aerodynamic design. Of course, not aerodynamic. All right. The next thing is inside of the fuselage. Okay, so inside of the fuselage, there's other thing that's called the cockpit. And this basically is where the pilot sits. So if your dad or someone that you know is a pilot, this is where they'd spend all of their time, inside of the cockpit. I remember when I was little, it used to be such that they would call kids to go into the cockpit while the plane was flying. But then, of course, since like terrorist attacks and whatnot, that became a massive security risk. So no longer allowed, but I do remember that was once the case. Okay, the other thing that's attached to the fuselage, which eventually does go inside of the fuselage, is the stuff that's called landing gear. Of course, you know, the wheels, okay, they're huge. Like this is, I don't know what size of plane this is, but you see the, like this would be like up to like probably like your head basically. They're massive. Depending upon the size of the plane, obviously the landing gear would differ a little bit. Okay, next thing we need to know is the engine versus propeller. This is kind of self-explanatory, but an engine, okay, looks like this, like our very first page. Engine, okay? And then a propeller is like it spins, okay? So helicopters would have a propeller on the top. Some planes, sorry, something in my throat. The old-fashioned planes more so had propellers, or you might hear them called like a prop plane. That's just short term for propeller. An engine jet would be much more common now. Okay, there you go. So hopefully you can identify those two types. But basically they're the same. They're the means of propulsion. Okay, now we're getting more technical. So now we're going on to the wing. We're learning about two different parts on the wing. The first one is called the aileron, okay? And these are on the far sides of the wings, okay? So the ailerons are the flaps closest to the tip of each wing. So they're on the very far ends. They're used to turn the airplane. They have a very, very, very important function. They're used for turning the airplane. So when the pilot wants to turn to the right, the pilot makes the aileron on the right go up, which makes that right wing tilt down. So over here, this would be like the right wing over here. So if he wants to go to the right, he would tip it up, which causes more drag on that side, which would cause the plane to turn that way, okay? And then conversely, the aileron on the left would go down, making the wing tilt up. So this one, so this kind of looks like the pilot might be wanting to turn to the right. The right aileron is going down. Some planes can have more than one aileron, by the way, also. They're turning them down, which would tilt that side to go up because it's increasing like the drag on that side. Okay, some planes have multiple ailerons. There you go. Okay, so here we go. This is kind of a good example of it. So now we have to keep in mind, let's see, the right one comes up. Okay, so you have to pretend that you are the pilot. Okay, so you're in here. So this is the right aileron, and then this is the left aileron, okay? So the right aileron comes up, the left aileron goes down, which means that the plane is going to roll to the right. So it's kind of putting the brakes on here, and then this is gonna lift up, okay? So this is gonna go slower, the brakes on, it's gonna drop when it goes up, and then this one is gonna cause the air to flow a little bit more quickly over top of it. Then the conversely, so if the left aileron goes up, okay, so again, we're pretending we're the pilot, right? So this is the left side of the pilot. It's going up, the right one comes down, and then it's gonna roll. The brakes are on this side, it's gonna roll to the left. Okay, we're gonna learn a bit more about that later, but that's generally kind of what you have to know. Now, the other thing that's on the wing is the flaps, okay? Far less important for like the ailerons are more important to understand, but the flaps are the part that's closer to the fuselage. So closer to where if you're sitting in the airplane looking out, you would see the flaps first, then you would see the ailerons next. So the flaps, now these are a kind of high lift device which reduce the drag by stalling the speed of the aircraft's wing for a given weight. Okay, so depending upon how big the plane is, they would have different size of flaps. And the flaps are usually mounted on the wing trailing edges of a fixed wing aircraft. Okay, yeah, so the trailing edge, so like on the outside, right? They wouldn't put flaps over on this side, okay? Now, the purpose of the flaps is actually not for steering, it is just for takeoff and landing. So the flaps are used to reduce takeoff distance and landing distance. So they're used to create like more or less drag essentially, okay? Now, so that's it. That's parts of the wing. Now, the next thing we're learning about is parts of the tail of the plane, okay? So this is a great image. This one I actually got from a NASA website. It looks pretty cool. Okay, so there's two different parts. There's this thing that's called the fin. And I like to think of this like, for example, like, you know, like a shark fin, okay? So the shark fin is up, right? And then, yeah, so it is going vertically. Okay, that's how I always like to remember this one. So the fin is also known as the vertical stabilizer because it's vertical in the air and it's stabilizing how the plane is moving. Like it's stabilizing it vertically, okay? So it's kind of controlling if it's gonna move like, I guess, a little bit like, kind of like side or side. And then the movable part we're just gonna be learning about in a minute is called the rudder. Okay, so the vertical stabilizer, aka the fin, has a rudder on it. And then the other part is the back of the plane, or sorry, the other part of the tail is called the tail, the tail plane. So kind of think of like a dog or a cat, right? Would have its tail and it's like would wag it side to side. So the tail plane is going across, it is the horizontal stabilizer, okay? Horizontal going across tail plane. And the movable part on the tail plane is called the elevator. The elevator goes up and down, just like an elevator that you would ride in. The rudder goes left to right, okay? Of course, it's not gonna move up and down, okay? All right, okay, so again, the fin is like the shark fin, okay? Vertical stabilizer. The tail that's wagging like a dog back and forth is called the horizontal stabilizer, okay? All right, we're gonna learn a little bit more about these now. Okay, so there you go. Now, the fin, aka vertical stabilizer, has this thing that's called a rudder, and this is what the pilot would actually be controlling. So the rudder, okay, so when the airplane changes directions, so left or right, basically, the tail of the plane wants to keep going in the direction that it has previously been traveling in. Okay, right. So the plane wants to keep going. It doesn't really, like the fin doesn't really want to change. It's meant to like stabilize you, hold you on the spot. Just like the fin on a surfboard, for example. It's there to keep you balanced. So to help the tail end of the plane travel directly behind, in the same new direction as the nose of the plane, the pilot also has to move the rudder because this is a little bit more stubborn. So if he's going to move, let's see here. Okay, so the rudder creates drag and then moves the nose of the plane to the right or to the left. Okay, so basically it's creating drag. So if he moves the rudder to the right, it's going to be putting on the brakes on that side. So it means the plane is going to turn to the left. Conversely, if he moves the rudder to the left, so like this way, then it's going to put on the brakes on that side, then it's going to help the plane bank to the right. Okay, so move the rudder left, the plane turns right, move the rudder to the right, the plane will turn to the left. Okay, now the next part is the tailplane, or aka the horizontal stabilizer. Now this part has the elevator on it. And the elevator, if you were to guess, what do you think that controls for the plane? Well, it controls how the nose of the plane is either going to go up or down. So when the elevator is up, it's putting the brakes on the plane and it's causing the nose to actually come up. And then when the elevator goes down, it's putting on, like, I guess it's sort of like increasing drag underneath the plane, slowing it down, which is going to cause the nose of the plane to go down. So that one's actually a little bit easier because when the elevator goes up, the nose of the plane goes up. When the elevator goes down, the nose of the plane goes down, which is opposite of the rudder, right? If the rudder goes to the right, the plane then banks to the left. If the rudder goes to the left, the plane then banks to the right. Okay, so now that is it for your lesson for today, okay? So this is going to count as like hopefully helpful, okay? So you need to label the parts of the plane. So you're gonna see all of these different parts, okay? And then you're going to be given labels. Labels for what to match them to. So like 1 all the way up to like 9 or whatever it's gonna be, okay? All right, so this is going to be on Edmodo for you to do a little bit of a matching thing with, okay? So have fun, and this is due tomorrow by 1 o'clock. Oh no, I need this done actually sooner than that. I need this done by like 8:30 in the morning, so then I can like enter this, and hopefully it's gonna help your flight marks, okay? So it's just only matching. Hopefully it's gonna be pretty easy for you to do, okay? All right, good job. And there's no social studies today, so you can just keep working on this. I'm still chasing up for some people for submitting of their UAE social studies and for the submission of the comics or the storyboards, which we're gonna do some presentations of for those who want to tomorrow during Zoom. Okay, so that's it for today. Just finishing off this thing.